Hello friends, Shayla here, and I am here to wrap up the reading month of November for you. If you've not been watching my vlogs or watched my most recent TBR video, I have a little bit of laryngitis. It's clearing up, so if things sound a little bit froggy, that's why. And sorry for no makeup. It's like 9 o'clock on Friday night, guys. Just forgive me for that one. I promise I'll look more put together in my next video. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to wrap up the rest of my reading month for November. I have done weekly reading vlogs, so if you want more details than what I give you in this video, you can go ahead and check that out. I do have 5 volumes of manga. I will tag those on at the end. If you're here just for the manga, there's your timestamp, and I'm just going to go ahead and dig right in here. So in the second half of the month, I was working on doing Tome Topple. So I read 5 books in total for Tome Topple. Not everything that was originally on my TBR. I had one swap, but everything else got read. So let's go ahead and talk about those. One of those is a volume of manga, so I'm just going to briefly mention that. That is the next omnibus for Rurouni Kenshin. This is volumes 16, 17, and 18. If you are not familiar with what Rurouni Kenshin is about, it is about a wandering samurai seeking peace in his life 10 years after the war. But because he is the legendary Batosai, he keeps getting pulled back into that war-torn world. So this is about his adventures and the people that he meets along the way. It's beautiful. It's lovely. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this particular omnibus, so I'm excited to keep going and dig into the next one for sure. But I really enjoyed this. This was for my graphic novel category for Tome Topple. The next one I'm going to talk about is the one that I consumed via audiobook, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This was a reread for me. I read this 2 years ago, and I decided I wanted to reread it through audio. I really enjoyed Jim Dale's narration. It made it very atmospheric. I really like what he did with it, and I still love this story 2 years later. So this is not one that faded with time like I was afraid it would. I still love it. I still love the concept. It's so interesting and intriguing, and I just really enjoyed The Night Circus. It gets talked about a lot for a reason, so if you have not tried it, please check it out. Erin Morgenstern has a new book coming out in 2019 that I'm looking forward to, so I'm excited, especially again after rereading this one. It just made me more excited for the new one. The next book that I read for Tome Topple was Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson. This was published in 1992. It was a really old one, but this is essentially about this is more of a dystopian sci-fi rather than a just straight sci-fi, in a world in which everything is interconnected, obviously, and we're following a pizza delivery driver who ends up getting involved in all sorts of things that he shouldn't through this world. And basically he's offered this viral kind of drug, and it just escalates, and it's this big kind of adventure story. It involves a lot of people. It was a really fun read. If you liked Ready Player One at all, I think you would really like Snow Crash as well. I gave this 4 stars, but that's also what I gave Ready Player One. There aren't the obscure 80s references so much throughout this one, but the story and stuff is kind of similar, so I really enjoyed it. Definitely give it a read if you find it at all interesting. My poor copy got all soaked by my cats knocking water over on it, but anyways, it was a really fun read. I would probably read it again. And I probably will, because when I read during a readathon, sometimes things go too fast. So this is one that I will probably visit at least another time to fully form my thoughts. But right now it's 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I think it's worth checking out. The next book on this list was one of my most intimidating ones for me, and that is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This is a silk punk fantasy novel. This is a Asian-inspired story in which we're following an empire and all of the politics. This is a very politically driven fantasy. So if you do not like political fantasies, you are not going to get along with this one. But this one is full of amazing characters, a beautiful fleshed out world, and I just really got along well with it. I would give it 4 stars as well. I really think I'm going to enjoy this series. So I will most likely be picking up the sequel, The War of Storms, early on in 2019 if I don't get it for Christmas. And, you know, these are big chunky books, so I like me some big chunky fantasies. This one, the main reason why I gave it 4 stars is there's very complicated language in this one. I'm pretty well read, as you guys know, but there are words that I had to go and look up because I didn't understand what they meant even as I read the sentence. Like, in context, it didn't make sense to me. So this is definitely a dense one. This took me almost a week to read because it was so dense and the writing was so dense. I read this mostly over like Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday. I spent a good chunk of those days reading this one. So it was good. I really liked it. I do suggest picking it up if you're at all interested in an Asian-inspired, politically driven fantasy, because then I think you'll really get along with it. And then the last one that I read technically for Tome Topple is an ebook, and that is The Darkest Warrior by Gina Showalter. This is like book 15, I think, in the Lords of the Underworld series. This is one of my paranormal smutty romance series, and I have been wanting to read this since it came out, but I kept waiting for the ebook to go cheaper, but I kept not. So it got to a point where I was comfortable buying it, so I went ahead and did that. And I loved this. 4.5 stars. It was so well written. The world is so amazingly fleshed out at this point, and there are certain plot devices that they used in this particular novel that, again, I really got along with and I really enjoyed. So I do highly suggest checking out the Lords of the Underworld series if you're at all interested. There are certain stories that I like much less than others, but this is one of my favorites. And this one you could probably read out of context because it doesn't involve a lot of the Lords of the Underworld. It doesn't involve most of your big players, so you'd be fine to read this one without that. But you won't have as much context for it because all three characters in this novel, the three main characters we follow, their story's been told throughout the other novels. So you won't have the attachment to the characters if you just jump into this one. But either way, I really enjoyed it. Highly suggest checking it out. I have two other ebooks that I read during this period of time. The first one being My First Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. This was my first Christina Lauren read, and I really enjoyed it. This particular novel has a plot device in which they use online dating to grow their relationship. And being somebody who found their spouse through online dating, I really saw a lot of like my love story with my husband as I read this book. And I got those butterflies and those feelings. So I ended up really enjoying it. And because they didn't use something like Tinder where you just swipe. This is something where they like make these detailed profiles and send messages back and forth and all that kind of stuff. No swiping involved. But yeah, anyways, it was really fun. I will definitely be picking up more Christina Lauren in the future. I really got along with the writing. I really liked the way the story played out. It played out. It didn't necessarily throw any big surprises at me. It pretty much played out how I thought it would, but I really enjoyed it, and I gave this 4 stars. The other ebook that I read during this 2-week period was Winter Dream by Chantal Gattari. The author, Chantal, was kind enough to send me a copy for review, and this is a Nutcracker retelling. It stays very close to the original Nutcracker story, so I would call it a retelling, not a story inspired by. I really got along with this. I get along with Chantal Gattari's writing a lot, I've learned this year. And so I gave this 4.5 stars. Very well-developed characters. The story moved at a good pace. I didn't feel like it dragged anywhere. All our characters, like, you grew attached to them very quickly like you're supposed to. I really just enjoyed this. There were some surprises at the end, not too many, but I really just enjoyed it. And it was great. It's a great holiday book. So if you are looking for a Nutcracker-inspired story or a Nutcracker retelling, I highly suggest checking out Winter Dream because I think you guys will really like it. I really like it. I will make sure I leave a link down below as to where you can pick up the ebook as well. So I think it was only like $4 or $5 on Amazon to pick up. So it's not even that expensive to pick up the ebook. So definitely check this out. It was released through Parliament Press. And they're a smaller publishing house that I've worked with on and off this year. And it's great. I really like this book. It was really good. I could talk about it for a long time. I will probably be doing a comparison with Winter Spell by Claire Legrand upcoming here soon, just so you guys can get my thoughts on the two and which one I prefer. All right, now we're back into physical books that I own. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Dragon Watch, The Wrath of the Dragon King by Brandon Mull. This is book 2 in the Dragon Watch series, but book 7 in the Fablehaven world. Buddy read this essentially with Connor. He was traveling, so we didn't really do too much buddy reading, but we both read it at the same time. I thoroughly enjoyed my read of this. I thought it was really fun. It's a solid Fablehaven book. There are certain things that happened within the story that I really liked, certain things that I didn't like so much. So this is somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. My enjoyment level was high, but there are certain things that happened in the story that I didn't really get along with. So I'm leaning more towards a 4, but I'll definitely be continuing on in this series. This is a middle grade fantasy series in which we have 2 teenage kids who are essentially running, in this series, they're running a dragon sanctuary. It's really kind of cool, totally worth it. I do suggest reading the Fablehaven series before you read the Dragon Watch series, just because you won't have a lot of context in things that they talk about if you haven't read the Fablehaven series. So I do suggest reading that before jumping into Dragon Watch, or at least, reading summaries so you know what happens in those before you jump into the Dragon Watch series. Like I say, this is book 2. I really enjoyed the first one as well, so I definitely think it's a fun middle grade series. So if you're looking for a fun, fast-paced middle grade, these are great. All right, now we got some romance books. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Rogue Not Taken by Sarah MacLean. This is a historical romance. The Lady Sophie basically commits this taboo in society by pushing her jerk of a brother-in-law into a fountain. It gets blown way out of proportion as she is trying to flee the scene of the crime. This rogue Marquess comes climbing down the ivy because he has spoiled a lady in society to ruin her engagement. So she runs into him. He dropped a boot on her head, I think, or something like that. And he's trying to get away as well. And essentially she ends up dressing up as like one of his footmen and escaping that way. And adventure ensues from there. This was a really fun romp of a ride. This was my first Sarah MacLean read. I will definitely be picking up more of her books in the future. And if you like historical romances at all, or bodice ripper romances as they're also known, I suggest trying out this one because I thought it was really fun. The next 2 I'm going to mention are in the same series. The first one is The Trouble with Christmas, and the second one is It Happened at Christmas. Both of these were sent to me by my friends at Forever Romance. These are from the Christmas Colorado series. So these 2 holiday books take place in a town called Christmas. In the first book, we are following a New York woman, Madison Lane, who is trying to protect her own company. They tend to build resorts in places, and Christmas Colorado is hoping for a resort to come and bail them out of their economic downturn, I guess you could say. Madison sees that it would bankrupt not only the town, but it would bankrupt the company, and so she ends up getting the deal shut down. Because of that, the people of Christmas start to riot and call her the Grinch who stole Christmas, and things ensue from there. Essentially, she's sent as a PR gag to Christmas Colorado to smooth things over with the town, while a man back at her company is trying to steal her spot and sabotage everything that's going on. This is really fun, and of course she meets up with the hunky Sheriff McBride, and things go from there, and it was a fun time. This is definitely a Hallmark movie-worthy Christmas book, and it's not overly smutty. So if you don't have a high tolerance for smut, everything's kind of like fade to black, nothing super graphic, and it's just a really sweet romance. So I do suggest trying out this series, because the other one, It Happened at Christmas, follows 2 characters that we meet in this one and their adventures. They kind of had a one-night stand previously. Girl ends up pregnant, but the guy is running for like state senate, I think it is. And so obviously there are problems there. But they're both really fun. I think this series is a blast. And there's a book that happens in between these 2 that's not a Christmas book, that it just takes place in Christmas, but it's not a holiday book, I should say. You lose a little bit of context. So I want to go back and find that book and read it before I continue on with this series, because I think it's really fun. It's a great series. Thanks again to my friends at Forever Romance for sending these to me, because I'm thoroughly enjoying them. Another Christmas romance book that my friends at Forever Romance sent me was Cowboy Honor by Carolyn Brown. Now, this is book 2 in the Longhorn Canyon novels, and I adored this book. I'm going to go back and read the first one, and then the third one's coming out in early 2019. So I will be reading both of them here soon. But in this one, we follow Sassy Claire, who ends up crashing her car, and she's got her niece in the car. And so they find this empty cabin, and so they go in, try to stay warm, try to stay out of the snowy weather because they're basically snowed in. Anyways, one morning, ranch hand who lives on the property shows up at the cabin, and being a gun-toting Texas woman that she is, she's got a gun drawn on him as soon as he walks in the door. He's immediately attracted to her, but he knows that it's going to take time for her to trust him. And so he takes things easy, starts to get to know her and her niece, and they end up staying on the ranch for a while because they need to wait for the snow to melt. And for one reason or another, Claire and her niece keep staying on the ranch for a significant amount of time. Anyways, this is so sweet. The cowboy in this is a total cinnamon roll, and it's one of those sweet, sickly sweet Hallmark Christmas movie kind of romances. And I really loved it, and it was just fun. I was actually in tears by the end of this. That's how attached to the characters I was. So yeah, anyways, it was a good time. Highly recommend it. I'm definitely going to be reading more Carolyn Brown here soon. All right, friends, so those are all of the novels that I've read in the month of November. If you want to know what I read in the first half, I'll leave that linked for you. Now I'm going to dig into the manga, so if you're not here for manga, you can go ahead and click off. I hope you will stay on because I really enjoyed my reads, and I would love to expose you to some manga as well. So as I said, I've got 5 volumes of manga here that I'm going to talk about. The first one is Volume 8 of Overlord. In Overlord, we follow a villainous overlord in a virtual reality video game who essentially gets trapped and transported into this new world. And he's trying to navigate his way through, and we meet a bunch of characters along the way. This is a fun adventure story. It does get fairly dark, so this is not going to be a fluffy adventure, but it's really enjoyable for me. I've really been enjoying my read-through of this, and I highly suggest picking it up if you're at all interested. The next one we're going to talk about is Shortcake Cake Volume 2. This is a romance series. This is definitely a shoujo. This is one in which there's a girl who lives like 2 hours away going to school. Her friend convinces her to move into this boarding house with all of these boys. And obviously, it's a reverse harem. Shenanigans begin to ensue. Feelings start to fly. And it's a very interesting thing. This is definitely one that I'm getting along with really well right now. I think this is going to be a new favorite as it starts to release. So Volume 3 isn't out yet, so I'm current on the English publish, the US publish, I should say. I think that one comes out like in February. So I will be keeping up with Shortcake Cake. I find it to be a good time, but I really like these kind of fluffy shoujo manga kind of stories. So take that for what you will. The next one that I've got here is a josei manga, which is meant for older women, and that is Wotakoi Love is Hard for Otaku Volume 3. I love this series so much. You guys have no idea how much I love this series. This is about grown-up geeks trying to fall in love. If this doesn't scream our community at you, I don't know what's going to. Because this is so fun. We're primarily, the main couple we're dealing with is like a video game otaku, so somebody obsessed with video games, and then a girl who's obsessed with the boy love kind of manga. I think it's called yaoi. I don't remember. I'll write the term somewhere. And then the second couple we follow, we're dealing with an anime otaku, so somebody who's obsessed with like anime and manga, and then a cosplay otaku, so somebody who loves to cosplay all sorts of things. She also likes I think they're called yaoi, I don't remember, the boy love style manga. And so her and the other girl get along really well that way. And then these two, we've got a video game otaku and just a sweet little innocent boy who is the brother of the other video game otaku, so he understands her. And I love them. I love all the couples. Watching them like struggle through their relationships to be themselves is really interesting to me. I see a lot of myself in this series, and if you see a lot of yourself, you might not like it, but I really like it because I've found my happily ever after. I've found my happy ending. I found my person, and he's a a geek in his own right. I wouldn't call him an otaku. I'm more otaku than he is. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. This is a really fun series. I really like how everything is going down in this series. I don't know when the next volume is going to come out, and I'm dying inside a little bit because, like, I need more. I just need more of it. And yeah, this is one of my new favorites of the year. It's so good. Love it. The next one that I've got here is Volume 5 of Frau Faust. This is the conclusion to the Frau Faust series. Essentially, in this series, we are following Johanna Faust and her demon, Mephisto. They've kind of set up a game for themselves where Mephisto's body has been, like, disassembled. And so over the last 100 years, Johanna has been trying to put Mephisto's body back together. This is the conclusion, so I'm not telling you anything that's going on in this volume. But I loved this series. I thought it concluded perfectly. This is from the same creator as Ancient Magus Bride, which you guys know that I love. So I really love the writing and the art style in this one. But if you're looking for a short, fun series, I definitely suggest picking this one up. And then last but not least, we have Volume 2 of Clockwork Planet. This one took a turn compared to Volume 1, so I really like where this one went. If you want a more detailed description on this one, I will leave my most recent reading vlog linked for you so you guys can go and check that out. I go into a lot more detail about this in there, but know that I really enjoyed it. I do plan on picking up Volume 3 here soon, and I will continue to pick up this series slowly and just enjoy it as I read it. I read the first one of these during 24-hour Tezuka, and I really enjoyed it, so that's kind of where we're at. So friends, that is everything that I read in the last couple of weeks. I know it's a lot. I'm kind of crazy, and where I was sick, I did a lot more reading than normal, so thank you guys for watching this video. If you're new, hi, I'm Shay. Welcome. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, please hit that subscribe button and click the little bell icon so you know when to come hang out with me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.